Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Studs and Scrubs podcast. With you, as always, is myself, Stu Coffee, my co-host, Nickstrum. We have one more co-host who is unable to join us at this time. My brother Miles is still out on LTIR with some health concerns, but normally, hopefully, moving into the season, we'll have three hosts with you. Nick, how you doing? How you been?
Good, man. Just, working at the old ice rink, taking care of the ice. Things are going good there. Hockey season right around the corner everywhere. NHL down to the little pee-wees skating around.
Yep.
So, busy time coming. So, I think last time maybe it said Nickstrom on the bottom. Did I not put that in this time? That's my bad on that.
Oh, you got Nickstrom this time. I don't know if it's
Got
showing on your
Nickstrom?
end, but you got it.
Okay, perfect.
We got our
I
little
like it.
handles on here, our nicknames
All
for
right.
fun.
Just want
The
to make sure people knew who I was. That's all. So
right. I mean, you gotta get the brand recognition out there. That's
so what about you, Stu? How are things down in Tampa? You got a little
things are
hurricane coming
good.
by.
Things are good for me. I should get my brand loyalty out real quick before we go too far. We got. I do live near Tampa now, and Hurricane. Oh, it's nice. Um, I'm actually not even quite sure how to pronounce it because it looks like Helen, but it's not. Hurricane
Yeah,
Helena or
Helena,
Helena. Helena?
Helena. I don't
I
know.
don't know, but it just came through yesterday, and I don't live close enough to the ocean to be in the bad flooding. The Tampa got really bad, like worse than I thought, because the hurricane didn't technically hit us, right? It went up to the Panhandle, hit in I
Right.
think it hit in Perry, is a small little town near Tallahassee, and it got blasted. That was a big hurricane, but people on the Gulf side coast all the way down to Fort Myers got hit really bad from Storm Ian, I think last year or the year before. They got more flooding than people would have expected. And then Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete is like what the Bay is. And that had record flooding up there. I read something that was like there's a really bad hurricane in like 1840s or something. And it was
Wow.
like the highest flooding storm surge ever recorded in almost 200 years, and it's like
Crazy.
really pretty bad for some people. I don't think there was insane like catastrophic damage of the storm, but so much water came in that it was like flooding. I saw pictures of people like 2 or 3, probably 3 feet deep, buried, not
Wow.
of water, sand.
Mm,
The ocean had brought 3 feet of
just
sand. People's
pulled it up
cars,
from the floor.
the roads were blocked. I think that was in St. Pete. Somebody uploaded. I was like, what? Like, it was probably St. Pete Beach, which is a little town on the Gulf side. But, I mean, the bay overflowed big time, and there's all these little tiny river systems that flood from up north where I am
Yeah.
down into the bay, and they back up. I think they call it brackish, like the saltwater backs up into it, and
Okay.
so we're safe where I'm at. Baby and wife are all good to go, but
I was
people
gonna
had a
say,
lot of
make sure you're
fun.
taking care of my goddaughter down there.
That's right. That's right. My firstborn, my only, is Nick is the godfather to my daughter. Okay, so we're all good with the hurricane down here where I live. Basically,
Good
nothing
stuff.
happened. Pretty much, I'm safe. I'm good. You're good. Rink's good. Nick
Yep.
is. I guess I don't know your title anymore. Nick's the manager, and you do the Zam stuff, and well, you do everything now, right?
Superintendent of
Okay.
maintenance operations. Yeah. So
Yeah.
up here, a little rink in Springfield, Illinois. So yeah, Zam driver. Kind of worked my way up, but now I'm Zam driver. We got 2 sheets of ice there, and also an outdoor pool. Summer camp in the summertime that just ended a few weeks ago, and like I said, we take a sheet of ice down in the summer. So obviously we're not as busy, so we just put that up around Labor Day. And like I said, all the hockey's starting to pick back up, practicing and that kind of stuff. So yeah, hockey season is here.
Yeah. It's coming.
So
Like you said,
yeah,
it's the when you mention that, because we think of the NHL because everyone's so excited it's finally back, right? You go in the doldrums of
Hmm.
the summer a little bit, even though the Stanley Cup's like played into July now, so it doesn't
Yeah.
it's not really a very big break, but it feels like it, right? So you come into
Right.
October, but I mean, when I used to play youth hockey, it was like a bigger gap because you're a kid. You don't play very many games, right? Whatever,
Right.
I don't know how many, 30 or 40
Yeah.
games, but like, well, your son plays. I mean, you got a break from like what, March almost
Yeah.
until, I mean, I
So
think we went to May when I was like in high school.
yeah.
But when you're a kid, it's like October to March, right? Is
Right.
something ish?
Yeah, it's probably end of
Well,
February, middle of March, just depending on, end of the year tournaments and some
we always
playoff
had a
stuff.
St. Patty's
Yeah. So,
St. Patty's tournament.
um, and then, there's always some extra things you can be involved in. My son Eli did some 3-on-3 camp
Okay.
stuff in June and July, I believe. So he hasn't really been on the ice since then. But I mean, it's good to get some kids some breaks and playing different sports and just
Yes.
um, he's going to be at the rink at least 3 times a week um, for his high school hockey season, and so
Yeah.
it's nice just to kind of
Crazy.
take a break. Yeah, and so I mean, and that's not even technically travel. I mean, we're playing high school hockey, but we're not going anywhere, staying overnight anywhere, doing that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's not
Right.
as involved as some of the other like the youth organizations where you can play travel, and then you're gone. I mean, 3 weekends out of the month, it seems like
Yeah.
somewhere, your other games at your home rink or whatever it is. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
that gets
you can play hockey year round if you want, but we try to get our kids involved in different things and just not. I don't want to burn them out.
no.
Expose
It's
them to some
better.
other things. So
It's better to have the balance, I think. In fact, I think that's part of the reason I stopped playing after high school is like I played in one of those leagues where you travel a lot, and
yeah.
it's called Central States, right? And it's not the same one as the one that you got right now because I'm
Hmm.
old, but it was, I don't know, maybe it's still around. I don't know. But there was a division that used to be like Madison, Wisconsin down to Dallas was technically in it one year, but it was really St. Louis to
Right.
Chicago, and then Milwaukee and Madison would like come and go depending
Yeah.
on travel. And it was like we were pretty good, but we weren't super good. Like Team Illinois is a really good AAA team. They play Shattuck St.
Hmm.
Mary's and stuff. And we were always like one step below those guys. We had 2 or 3 guys on our team that were that good, but we didn't have a full 18 players that good. We would get
Right.
destroyed if we played them for 20-minute periods.
Yeah.
They'd beat us by 5, 10 goals. But you travel so much, and as a kid, you don't really realize. Your parents are driving you all over, but you get burned out a little bit because no one's really, not to chirp myself, I got scrub right in my name, studs and scrubs, right? We're the scrubs. Um, I was never going to go to the NHL, like by a long shot. If I would have taken college seriously and tried hard and lifted weights, maybe someday I could have made a B league in Europe, but like I wasn't going to the show. And
Yeah.
you get so serious. And I'm playing in the off season, and I'm like, oh, don't no one talk to me at the rink. I got my headphones in, I'm getting engaged. And it's like, by the time you're 17, 18, you start to get burnt out. And it's like, if you're burnt out in high school, like
Right.
you're doing something wrong. So that's all that rambling was for like in the off season. You hear about kids, even guys that go to the NHL, that are like, I played soccer every year in the summer until I was, drafted
Yeah.
basically and stuff and whatever else it is. It's like it's good for kids to get well rounded, and Nick's kids are super smart too. So it's like whatever, if you're doing instrument stuff or you're doing different activities that aren't even sports, it's always better to
Yeah.
get the rounded.
Yeah. They like being involved in all kinds of stuff. Band, Scholastic Bowl, the puppet stuff. I mean, just they run the gamut. So,
Yeah,
but,
that's good though. Makes the well-rounded out
oh yeah.
person. So for this pod, pretty much we are gonna try to go through the Metro Division. We were gonna do a podcast with East Coast and West Coast, and we just ramble a little too much. Took us a little too long. Basically, as I mentioned, if you want to follow and like and subscribe and share and all that stuff, it
All
helps
the
us. We're
things.
new.
Yes.
We just getting started. We don't really know what we're doing with podcasts. None of us have ever had a podcast. Um, and we basically want to try to focus on like just we are just fans, right? We're just talking hockey and things we like about hockey and blah blah blah, life in general and different stuff and all these huge milestones this year everyone talks about. We're not breaking news. We're not coming to you with the I got the Crosby contract first. Like we're just talking hockey and we're gonna talk fantasy because we love fantasy. Um, and we'll have a little expert. We're not going to spend too much time this episode, but we changed our fantasy where we do the points system instead of the category system. And then our teams play head to head. So it doesn't matter if you win by 1 point or you win by 100 points. At the end of the week, your record is 1-0 or 0-1. And you just go the whole season like that. We think it's really fun. We've edited it for 10, 12 years now. So anytime we're like giving advice for fantasy, like, oh, this guy's really good, go pick him up, we're basing it off of our league's rules. So just throwing that out there as we go through. And at the risk of talking anymore, I think it's time to just jump right into the Metro, kind of give our preseason predictions, where, how are people going to finish, who's in the playoffs, etc. What do you think, Nick? You want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll go. I'll get the ball rolling here. So, yeah, it was kind of hard. I know last time we talked about doing the East and the West, and I kind of had to do that when I was figuring out my playoff teams because going by divisions, it was like, all right, when I did the Atlantic, it was like, all right, I think all these teams could make a run to playoffs. But I had to like figure out who from the Metro was going to make it in order for me to narrow down how I was getting my Atlantic team. So I kind of did them both at the same time, but we just, like you said, kind of ran short on time last time. But
right.
yeah,
No, I did the same thing because I remember looking at sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I did the same thing where I'm looking at the Atlantic. I'm going, Wings. It's this year. Okay, man, Senators look good. Okay, they're in. Sabres, definitely. They're taking a step forward. I think they're in. I've got like 7 teams in the Atlantic. Wait a minute.
Right.
Hold on.
It'll work out.
Who's in the Metro?
Yeah. So I'll just start from the bottom here and kind of give you my take on things. So I don't know how they finished last year. So I didn't really take any of that into consideration. But starting at the bottom, my bottom feeder team is Columbus, and I hate to say that with everything surrounding them, and just the tragedy of Johnny Hockey. And I would love it if I'm wrong on that, and they go on this incredible run and just are able to overcome some stuff this year. I think that'd be a great story, but that just sucks the wind out of your sails. I don't know how guys are going to perform. Sean Monahan signed there to play with his best friend, Johnny Hockey. And now this happens. And, so I do think they're going to be motivated. They're going to want to play well for him. But I just don't see him being that good this year. So I got Columbus at the bottom. Step above them, I have the Flyers for no real reason. But I don't see them doing much. They don't scare me. They're not a team that I look at and it's like, oh yeah, we're playing the Flyers this game. Doesn't strike fear into me. I think there's other teams in the division that are much more talented, have better players, better depth. So next team up, I wish this wasn't the case, but I have the Capitals. I think they're going to be on the outside looking in this year. We can talk about some other things with them, but they're just a lot of injuries. They're not quite the same team. Seems like they're getting older. Do you realize that there are only, I believe, 3 players left from their Stanley Cup team from 6 years ago? So in 6 years, it's a completely different team.
That is pretty wild when you think about it.
Yeah, I think it's John Carlson, Ovechkin, and Tommy Gunn Wilson. That's it.
Yeah. See, I would have guessed wrong because I was sitting here thinking
Oshie's still on the
Backstrom,
team, but he's not playing. Backstrom, same thing, but they're
same
not
thing.
on like the
They're
active
not.
roster.
Oshie and Backstrom are out indefinitely, or Oshie's
Yeah.
the whole season. No?
Uh, yeah, back stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if we've seen both of them play it. I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't be shocked if neither one of those plays a game again.
Yeah.
Um,
We
so
agree. Agree.
I just think the Caps are going to be a little distracted this season with some other things going on. And they're a
Got
little
his
older
picture on
now.
the wall.
Yeah.
He's
I mean, so, but I hate that. But I mean, they just barely squeaked in last year. They were a boring team in the playoffs last year. They shouldn't have got there, should have been the Wings. And I don't see them taking a step forward. Above them, I have the Islanders. They're that boring team that just plays a solid team game. They don't really have any quote unquote superstars. Yes, they have some great players. And I think Patrick Waugh, while I hate him, does kind of get the most out of what he has to work with sometimes. And I think, the Islanders don't have a lot to play with, but they got great goaltending. They're the early 2000 Devils. They're just a boring
Yep.
team to watch. They're going to beat you
Tough
2-1, 3-0, whatever. They're not going to go out there. They're not the Oilers where they're going to put up 6 goals a game. That's not their style. That's not how they're going to win. Um, so uh, I just I think they'll be decent because they usually are, but I also have them on the outside of the playoffs. So moving on from them, I have next team up will be the Devils. I like some of their offseason moves. They got Markstrom, goaltender. Jack Hughes got hurt last year. I think Dougie Hamilton missed a lot of time last year as well. He'll be back. And so Devils on paper, I think, have some decent talent. And Timo Meyer, Thomas Tatar, you got a lot of those guys, and so I think they'll be all right. I think they're going to beat up on a lot of those bottom feeder teams in the Metro. But because I have 5 teams in the Atlantic, Devils are still out of the playoffs. So that leaves 3 teams left. Obviously, these teams are making the playoffs, just order wise that I have them. But my third place team in the Metro, I have the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't really like putting them there. I'm not a Penguins fan. I could also see them finishing next to last in the division, but when you have Sidney Crosby on your team, we all would have said that last year, and somehow he just doesn't age, it seems like,
Yep.
which is so weird to me because early on in his career, uh, all the concussion injuries and just everything, and
True.
now it's like completely flipped, and now he's just like a machine,
Mm-hmm.
and he's you can count on him to play, and he's consistent, and he's his
Is that a record, I think? Personal record.
yeah, he
He's
might have
39, 40 years old, whatever he was, and I think he scored the most goals in a single season. Not most points, but I think he had his goal record last year. And it's
maybe
like, how? And
yeah,
the team was terrible. Every time I'd watch them on TV, I'd be like, well, they're horrible, they're out. And then they
yeah.
win the game, and I'm like, Crosby is dragging this team by the hair into the
Yeah,
playoffs.
and his even
Almost. I
strength
mean,
numbers last year were crazy,
okay.
which was it was like obviously you expect him to kill it on the power play, but I think it was his even strength numbers
Yeah.
last year that were like um, just making people kind of pay attention to him a little bit. So, I mean, when you got Crosby on your
Yep.
team, yes, they lost Gensel, and so that's going to be a big hole to fill. But I mean, it's just hard to bet against Crosby, and especially in that division. Um,
Right.
like I said, a lot of those other bottom feeder teams, I feel like they're just going to get beat up on. So I have the Penguins making the playoffs, finishing third in the division, but I also wouldn't be shocked if the Devils or Islanders take their spot and the Penguins finish second to last. Wouldn't shock me. So moving on from there, I have the Hurricanes finishing second.
Okay.
Solid team, again, kind of that system team mentality. We don't have a superstar. You got Sebastian Aho, but he's kind of an under the radar star. No one really talks about him in the same breath as some of these other flashy guys, or and even in a bigger market. I mean, Carolina's not a big market per se, but I know they got great fans, and but it's not really a hockey city or a hockey team that you think of when um, you're trying to think of superstars and great teams. So, but they are a solid team. Rod the
Yeah.
Bod's got those guys playing for him and just kind of figured out. So I think they'll be pretty decent again, as they usually are. And then
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
round it off, Rangers, I think, just run away with the division. Maybe not run away with, but I mean, there's the to me the Hurricanes are their only real threat to the title. Rangers are just loaded with talent, loaded with
Yeah.
depth. I mean, Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Adam Fox, Shesterkin. I just, now they're a different team in the playoffs, obviously, but regular season, I just see them kind of waxing teams left and right. And so, yeah, I got Rangers winning the division, Hurricanes, Penguins making the playoffs as well. But that's it out of the Metro. I think it's a weak division overall. Doesn't scare me. So that's what I got.
Okay.
What about you?
I like your breakdown. No, it's good. It's got me questioning some of my standings, but a little bit of a traitor, I see. I mean, I don't know if I should drop it on the podcast here, but
I am a pseudo
Nick's over
Caps
here as a
fan.
Penguins fan in
No,
2009.
no, right here.
Not really.
Pseudo Caps fan.
Which, for the backstory, not that anyone actually cares, but we're all Red Wings fans. But Nick also grew
I
up
grew
out
up
east.
in Maryland, and
So
I
he
grew
was
up going to
watching the
Caps
Capitals when they
games.
were the worst team like in
Worst.
history.
Yeah.
Cheering for people like names I don't even remember because my dad's from Michigan. He grew up close to Detroit. So like I was born Red Wings, like you don't have an option. And then when I'm a kid, they're unstoppable.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm just watching the Red Wings and Nick's like, oh, I remember this guy. He played for the Capitals in like '95, and I'm like, never heard of the guy.
Yeah. So Caps is what I grew up with. Those were the games that I went to, but my youth pastor was a Red Wings fan, and that's like he came in right about fifth, sixth grade,
Yeah.
and I was wanting to be in the youth group with all my older cousins and all that stuff when we played hockey, floor hockey, parking lot, street hockey, all the time. And so that's when I really started paying attention. And he was from Michigan, big Red Wings fan. And so that's the games we would watch at his house. Those are the guys he's telling me about. He's out there with his Fedorov jersey and all this stuff. So that's the team I started paying attention to and following. And at the time, it was easy to be a Wings and Caps fan because Wings were my West team, Caps were my East team.
Right. Yeah.
Both in the same, conference. It got a little tougher, but also I was a huge and still am a huge Ovechkin fan because obviously Ovechkin Crosby rivalry came up. I was going to Caps games. Ovi was my guy over Crosby. And so big Wings fan, Caps fan, Ovechkin.
Which is actually how I got sucked into the Caps universe was right around the same time as the Ovechkin and Crosby rivalry. That not really the rivalry necessarily, but it was also their rookie seasons, and they were these two superstars at the same time, and the hype was just out of control. It was somewhere in that window when we probably first met. 2005, 2004, I don't know if we had met yet, but like by 2008, we knew each other.
Yeah, so sure. Rochelle and I started dating in 2005. Actually, that's true. My first trip out here to Illinois, my wife and I met in West Virginia, and she was from out here. Stu was living in Illinois at the time. I came out with her over spring break in March of 2006. And I want to say we probably even went to a Wings Blues game, or maybe at least a Blues.
Oh, game. Maybe because the early thousands there was a window. We went to a lot of games. My dad had season tickets sometimes, just because St. Louis is the closest metro area to where. I mean, Springfield's a metro area, but it's little. If you've never been to Springfield, it's the Abraham Lincoln stuff. It's like people that aren't from Illinois that just think of Chicago. it's
Right.
down south and it's a small city,
St.
but
Louis is much
St.
closer than
Louis is
Chicago.
the real city. It's the closest big city. And
Yeah.
so if you want to watch hockey, you got to go to a Blues game.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
went to a
So it
lot of
kind of
those.
sucks being a Wings fan in Springfield because you're right between the Hawks and the Blues.
Yeah, and there was a window where you said, your youth pastor, you were at an impressionable age, right? Fifth or sixth grade.
Yep.
I'm watching the Red Wings dominate everyone. Well, I don't know how old you are in sixth grade. Are you like 12? Is that 11? I don't know.
11, 12. Yeah.
So that's back then. I would have in 2002. So the Wings were amazing,
Oh,
but the
right.
Blues were really good. So I'm playing
Yes.
youth hockey, and we played in that league I mentioned earlier. The other one is called MOAM, I think. It's the Missouri
Mm-hmm.
Hockey Association or something.
Yep.
And all these good teams in St. Louis play. A lot of the pros retire there. There's good taxes and stuff. So, like, we'd play Chris Prunger's kids are a little too young, but, like, we'd play Tony Twist's kid. I met Tony Twist in the locker room and stuff like that. And
I was
somebody
trying to
else, that
think.
kid's a little older. McGinnis, I think. But like
Okay.
we would play in these leagues down there, and the Blues were really good. So everyone I knew was like these bandwagon Blues fans, and so then it sucked as a Wings fan. You're in the Blues arena, and they're great games. Looking back on it, but it's
Yeah.
like the game Pronger takes a run at Yzerman and he tripped and hurt
Mm-hmm.
his knee. I don't know if you. I
Yeah.
watched that game, and people were like, "Oh, he submarined him." I'm like, "No, he tried to take his head off," and you're like 12 years old. But then everyone I knew when we grew up and we were in college and high school, all of a sudden we're out buying King jerseys. They were diehard Hawks fans, and I was like, whoa, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, whoa, whoa. What the
Yeah.
heck? You guys were all Blues fans 5 years ago. What is this nonsense? And they're like, no, dude, I'm from Illinois. I like the Bulls. I like the Blackhawks. I'm like,
All Chicago. I'm all Chicago.
I've had enough of this. At least Detroit fans are loyal, right? I mean, the Lions go to the finals last year, and they've been bad for 40 years. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
At least Detroit sticks you around. Anyways, now I'm off topic, but that's how it's weird that the Metro, I agree with you, is just not, well, it's just not as good as the Atlantic. I think everyone would probably agree with that. Top to bottom, it's not, at least. It's top heavy, right? They've got a few juggernauts.
Yes. Yeah.
But for years and years and years, I mean, we're closing in on 20 years, you had the Caps-Pens rivalry. And you still had the Rangers because they were always a pretty good team with Lundqvist. So it was like anything could happen. They could win the Cup. They went to the finals. The Metro was always pretty good. And I feel like, it's going on 10 years maybe. But for sure, for 5 years, the Atlantic has been like dominant. So, anyways, that to say, we already did the Atlantic. Let's go through the Metro. For me, it's fairly quick, and we'll see what I've got compared to your list.
I'm excited to see what you got.
List here. I'll start from the bottom and go up. I, of course, didn't write them down in order, so this is going to be like, I'm going to say my whole thing. You'll be like, Stu, you forgot a team. Okay. So bottom of the division, unfortunately, I agree with you. I got Columbus at the bottom. I just don't see it. There's been a lot of kind of buzz around, uniting together and, do it for Johnny and everyone playing well, and they're just going to come together as a unit. And I hope so, because as much as we're, Red Wings in Michigan and, I don't like Ohio State, Columbus, it's like, they got a great fan base there. We've been there. We went to the All-Star game there, right? They got the cannon. Everything that happens surrounding, Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew is just devastating. And you want them to succeed this year. You want them to do well. And I just kind of look at their roster, and it's just hard to see it. I don't know, especially with the Atlantic is so strong that it's like, oh boy, I don't really know if they can quite pull it up this year. I think it might take a little bit to rebound from that. So unfortunately, I got them at the bottom. I hope I'm wrong. I'm going to go second to last, the same as you, I think, yours. I have Philadelphia. And I kind of see like they might be a step above that. I got them bottom 2 or 3, depending on how the year goes, because last year they just surprised everyone. They were right in it to the very last second. I think we all probably remember the weird pulled the goalie and lost the game in regulation was like, even though the Red Wings won in overtime, they still lost because of that. Remember, like, if you're a Wings fan, you're getting flashbacks.
Yeah.
But I think that was a little bit of a, not a fluke, but like they're an okay team. They had some surprise flair last year. And, with Torts in there, we've seen it now for years and years and years. He comes in, he barks at everyone, he gets in people's faces, and it's my way or the highway. Everyone's blocking a shot. I don't care what line you play on. I'll bench whoever I want. And people get annoyed by it, and fans sometimes I'm kind of over it a little bit. It's been so many years. It's like, all right, dude, show's not about you. But you can't argue with the results. He always, always, always whips the team into shape. They play good team defense, and they capitalize on their chances, and they do better than you think. But that was last year. This is this year. Is he going to do it again? There's always talk about the younger players kind of going, yeah, bro, I don't really respond to that. I mean, what's his name? Can't think of it. Who's just said I won't play there. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Rookie, young stud, just was like, I'm not going to go. Trade me. I mean, it was like a full Eric Lindros situation where he was just like, no, not going to play. Is it Gauthier? Who did that?
No, he's there.
It's
I'm trying to think. But yeah, I know what you mean with Torts.
I think it is Gauthier. He's not on the daily faceoff roster, right? Didn't he sign in with Utah? Anyways, the guy I'm thinking of is I can't believe I can't say his name. Anyways, Flyers I think will be okay, but they're just going to fall short. Mikachev might be a curveball there. Apparently, he's going to be just an absolute stud, but we'll see. Up from there, I am going to go with, make sure I don't skip my team, I'm going to go with Islanders. I think maybe it's the same that you said. Can't remember. Okay. Islanders are just, I don't know. I'm pretty much echoing what you're saying. You want to say they're the wet blanket, the smothering, and they have been for years. But then you look at that first line. They got Duclair, Horvat, and Barzal, and it's like, that is not boring, man. That is awesome. But I don't know. Then you watch them play, and it's like they don't let them run. Part of me thinks that might change a little this year. It's not a bold prediction or anything, but I do have a theory that this year, Patrick Waugh just being kind of the loose cannon he is a little bit, and he's the first one who started pulling the goalie with 5 minutes left a few years ago, right? And like he's always been a little bit radical, and I feel like his intensity is with the goalies as well. Like when he played, I think he was like, that's on me. Like stopping the puck's on me, winning the game's on me. I can't score a goal. This is all I can do. So he obviously played for some really, really talented teams, but I think he'd be okay with like, Barzal, you were on the ice to score goals. You're not here to stop the puck. That's what the goalie's for. And then he can hold his goalies to a higher level where one of them, Varlamov, right? He had him in Colorado when he first came to the NHL. And so it's like, I think Waugh kind of has the pedigree, even though, go Wings and not a huge fan. Like, he can kind of just stare him down and be like, dude, stop the puck. Like, they have a really good tandem. They have two of the best goalies in the NHL, for a 1-2 punch, a 1A, 1B situation. And it's like, I think he might let the forwards run and gun a little more. And if they give up a 2-on-1 going back, he'll say, look, you got to stop a 2-on-1. You got to bail the guys out if you want them to score goals. And so I do think there'll be a little more offensive punch this year, but I don't think that their roster is going to be able to carry them higher than that right now. I wouldn't be that surprised if they leapfrog someone, but I've got them there. Yeah. Okay, next up, I've got the Penguins. This is where we start to differ. I've got the Penguins, whatever I'm at, 5 from the basement, because I look at them, I agree with you, Crosby's the biggest X factor by far. You can never, ever count him out. These guys could finish third in the Metro. I wouldn't be that surprised like you're saying. But I'm just looking at their roster, and there's so many question marks for me. You've got people like Rickard Rakell, can be a total stud. Not always. He has to bring his A game. Okay, Michael Bunting a few years ago couldn't stop scoring in Toronto, right? He was unstoppable. If he plays like that, they're going to be in good graces. Okay, well, Kevin Hayes. Kevin Hayes is a 200-foot player, can kill penalties, can do it all. is he going to get you 4 goals or is he going to get you 18 goals? You know what I mean? Lars Eller, Brian Rust. It's like everyone I look at the roster, Erik Karlsson is like, these are all question marks to me. Even you come into goaltending, and Nedeljkovic and Jari are both very good goalies, but I've seen them both crap the bed too.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, I look at their roster and I'm like, if all these guys show up and everyone plays well, this is a dang good team. But they're filled with a roster that has had holes in their career, except basically Malcolm and Crosby. Let's throw in Letang. That, like, there's been moments where it's like, even Malcolm last year a little bit was like, dude, are you playing? I mean,
Yeah, he can kind of disappear.
you know, and then, I mean, I'm always checking the game notes going like, did he play today? No goals, no assists, no plus minus, no hits, no shots on goal. It's like, this is one of the best, you know, Russian-born players to ever live. Like, so for me, I think they're going to underperform. I think they're going to take a step back, and it's going to be similar to last year where Crosby's dragging everyone into every game, you know, and it's like, he's talented enough to do that, but again, 82 games again, I don't know. I think they'll take a step back.
Yeah.
So where do we got? Who's next? Okay, let's see here. Did I say everyone? Okay, so it's Capitals for me next.
Okay.
Capitals, I almost put in the playoffs. I didn't this time because I'm like you. I got 5 from the Central. I mean, from the Atlantic. 5 from the Atlantic, so that bumps Capitals out for me. I actually disagree with you a little bit on it, except maybe I'm stupid because of TJ Oshie and Backstrom both. I mean, that's pretty big shoes to fill. But I'm looking at, you know, Jacob Chikrin maybe found a home. You know, Rasmus Sandin maybe can step up. So it's similar to the Penguins where they're not quite as big of names, but Pierre-Luc Dubois and, you know, some of these guys that it's like, okay, if they step up and play to their potential, this will be a good team.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's Mangiapane and Dylan Strome. It's not Sidney Crosby and Malcolm, you know.
Right.
So I see them.
And I hope you're right and I'm wrong with the Cavs. I would love
right. Hopefully, you know,
yeah.
I'm kind of, I don't want to sound like a total scrub that I am, but I'm kind of anti-PLD a little bit, Pierre-Luc Dubois. You know, it's the demand the trade, the get the big money, that atmosphere wasn't right. I'm going to score 70 goals over here, and it's like, I don't know, the numbers just aren't there. Right. You know, he's just not quite where he's supposed to be. And everyone's like, yeah, dude, but he's never played with. Wait till he gets out. He's a serious power forward center with Alexander Ovechkin. It's over. And I'm like, I don't know. You said that in L.A. and he's sitting there on the 4th line making $9 million picking his nose. I don't know. So I don't know. It's a question mark for me, but I think that the flip of the coin for the Caps is going to go their way. They're going to do a little better than they did last year, but getting into the playoffs last year was just weird, right? They're like goal differentials negative $1 million, and they still made it. I think this year's back to reality a little bit, where even though they played better as a cohesive team, they're going to miss out on the playoffs. That's just, I think the Atlantic's heavy, and they're sending 5 teams. So now we're into the playoff, boys. We're getting close to my bold prediction for the podcast, and probably my only one for this year. I've got to think up some other ones. We want to throw out a few bold or even crazy ones that is like kind of for fun, but like I could see it. Yeah. Okay, so finishing 3rd, I have the Hurricanes. And pretty much agree with everything you said. They're a very, very good team. I picked them to win the Cup last year, I'm pretty sure. So they kind of disappointed me there. But I think I said that Panthers and Hurricanes are unquestionably the 2 best teams coming in. And I guess I was right about the Panthers, but I'm pretty sure I filled out my bracket that the Hurricanes would win. So I was wrong on that one. But they're just a really good team, and I think that who was it that you mentioned on their team is going to step up this year? I can't remember who it was. Aho's good because I heard or read something that it was like a lot of people say, they don't have a
Dougie Hamilton,
right? Dougie Hamilton, and it was
he's on the Devils.
Dougie's on.
Now he's on the Devils. Yeah.
Could be Cockcrook me, however the heck you say his name, Jasperi.
Yeah.
Jasperi. But Sebastian Aho is like one of those guys they say, they don't have a real superstar, and Carolina fans get triggered, right? But it's like I heard someone say that okay, if he's a legit total superstar, let's call him a superstar,
Hmm.
they don't have a superstar goal scorer on their team. And I felt like that was fair, where he's a
Okay.
underrated player, undersized, very good at defense, and he's a pass first guy, right? That dude's a playmaker. Okay,
Yeah.
if you had a Ovechkin, Stamkos, whoever, Matthews, just pure goal scorer, even like a Rantanen or whatever, even a Braden Point, where they're like, they put the puck in the net. That's what they do. And then Aho's dishing to him. That would
Yeah.
be, that's your Backstrom Ovechkin, right? Combo.
Yeah.
That's the boom, boom. And they don't have that. So I like that description better where it's like, okay, fine, they've got a superstar, it's Aho, but he's a passer. They don't have a goal scorer superstar. Either
Yeah.
way, I think they're going to be third. I think they're solid.
So, just a little interject here on Aho. I just kind of looking at his stats here. He did score 89 points last year in 78 games. So,
Right.
I mean, you're talking a 90-point player. I think that if he's on a little bit more higher profile team franchise, he gets a little bit more attention. Carolina's a good team, but they just, I mean, that's not really the one that you think about. You know, if he's on the Rangers or the Canadians, Leafs,
Yep.
Hawks, something, where they're getting a little bigger market than Raleigh,
Yeah,
I
it's
think
true. And it's
that would
just
help him.
we're going to get Carolina fans jumping down our throats here, but
Yeah,
it's sometimes people get upset. I feel like when you use words like small market and things, it's like, well, it's a little true where it's the size of the city itself, population, but then also how big is the market, right? Where like Detroit is a large city, but also because they're original six and because they were good back in the day, like their fan base is gigantic,
yeah,
and so it's like to the same point where the city of Pittsburgh is probably bigger than Charlotte, right? Or they're in Raleigh.
yeah.
It's like it's not even about the city size necessarily. Pittsburgh didn't make the playoffs last year, and for a lot of the season they were terrible. But they're in the news every single day, and maybe it's
Yeah,
because Crosby was so good, but it was like they just won't ever stop talking about them, and they're not good.
yeah,
So it's like it's one thing if everyone's all over the Leafs. Okay, it's Toronto. Toronto is by far the largest city in Canada. Their team is absolutely stacked, and it's funny that they go to the playoffs and lose in round one. I mean, come on, it's hilarious, and it's like that makes more sense. But then you get Carolina, who's totally stacked, and they're one of the favorites to go in, and people are talking about them on TV, and then they're like, oh yeah, also Carolina might win the cup. Next,
yeah.
and it just is sort of an afterthought, like you said, which it shouldn't be because they're so good. But
Aho could probably go to the grocery store in Raleigh and not get mobbed.
honestly, I wonder because somebody was,
If
man,
he's
I just
if
heard an
he's in
interview
any
about that.
Canadian
That was,
city or
yeah,
Pittsburgh or Detroit, do you think he can do that? No.
yeah, that was. You know what? I think it was. I think I saw an interview with Arbor Jacki. I think is what it was, and they said you can't do anything in Montreal, right? Like you can't even just pump gas.
Yeah,
Somebody waves to you, hey, what's up? And he was like, I mean, maybe 50-50 or whatever. And no offense to, Wi-Fi, but that's not Nick Suzuki.
yeah,
That's not Carey Price. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
and he literally was like, being modest, but he was basically like, I mean, you can't go to eat with a group of guys ever.
Yeah,
And he was saying that the fans were really cool. They'd hang back and not bother them while they were eating. But like, if you're one of you by yourself, you're still going to get recognized. 4 or 5 guys, there'll be a mob
for
of
sure
people.
you're getting it. Yeah, yeah,
And it's like I've heard people say the same thing in St. Louis, Columbus, Raleigh. Some people like to go to those places because they're like, people forget a lot of the people in the NHL are from tiny little small towns in Canada, right? And they're like, I don't really necessarily want to go to Toronto and be mauled by people every second of every day, or
right.
reporters is worse, no offense, than just your regular fan who wants an autograph.
Hmm.
They want to come. You see that one where a reporter asked Berube, is it time for the panic button yet?
Hmm.
They're 0-2 in the preseason. And they said, is it time to hit the panic button? It's like, Anyways, I digress. Again, I'm back at the Atlantic here. Red Wings. I got to focus up. So Metro, I've got number 2 in the Metro. I actually have the Rags.
Oh, okay,
Nick says
okay.
run away, and I'm reading their roster going, you might be right because holy crap are they good. Sam Carriac on the 4th line. I mean, that is a good player.
Yeah.
You know, you're reading some of these teams. So the part of me does think that they'll win because they're so stacked, and the Shesterkin quick wombo combo.
Mm,
I think that a lot of people were surprised last year when Shesterkin kind of got rocky and all of a sudden he was hurt or whatever. He wasn't playing super well. Quick came in and, man, whatever. It was only 10 games or 12 games. He was just one of the best in the NHL. And it's
yeah.
like, that is why they won the President's Trophy, right? I mean, they still would have made playoffs. They're still good. Then Shesterkin has so much confidence because his backup is a legend who, everything I heard, was like really awesome and was like, dude, you got this, you're good, and wasn't sort of like, well, he sucks and I'm the veteran, it's my net now, you know. And that 1-2 punch is so deadly. So I wouldn't be that surprised if they did end up winning. It's just my bold prediction for the year. I'm going to have Rangers at second because they're going to get edged out near the end by not only the Metro leader, but the President's Trophy winners, the New Jersey
Whoa.
Devils.
Wow. Okay,
There's
that
my
is a
bold
bold
prediction.
prediction right there.
And they're off to the worst start in the league in preseason. So I like where I'm at with it. But I'm looking at them. I just see that really what it started with. My bold prediction was that they were going to make the biggest jump in the
Okay.
standings out of all the
Yeah.
teams because I thought last year was a weird drop off. Everyone knew they were a little bit better than that. The year before, they surprised everyone. They beat the Rangers, and they were all high on themselves, and it kind of went tits up a little bit there. And it was like, I see a rebound. And this is who I was thinking of earlier, Timo Meier. He underperformed a little bit last year. I feel like that's over. He's back. He's going to be the guy he was in San Jose, where he's just carrying. And Luke Hughes is hurt right now. Pesci is hurt right now. I don't think those are super long. Luke Hughes, I think, is long-ish. I think they already announced a couple weeks. But I look at the goalies, and Markstrom, we all know, fell off a little bit, and he's had some rough years. But when he's on, he's on. And I think Jake Allen is one of the most underrated goalies in the NHL his whole career. And he's not, for me, he's not a 60 wins starter. He's not a carry to the Stanley Cup necessarily. But he is such a good backup. He's so solid to throw in there. I think the waning years, the end of Price's career, you could see how good Allen was, where he's sitting on the bench for 8 games and then he can come in and get you 2 wins. And he's just such a solid. If Markstrom's a little shaky or he plays 2 games in a row that are bad, they got nothing to worry about throwing Allen in there. And I just think it's going to be one of those Cinderella stories. I love Brendan Dillon. He's one of my favorite D. I used to joke, not to chirp people who have won the Norris Trophy and are better at everything in life than I ever will be. But when it was Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson, and they were getting all the points but didn't know how to stop the puck, everyone was saying how Burns is better than Karlsson, but Karlsson's gonna win the Norris because he's gonna get 100 points. I'm like, dude, he's not even the 3rd best defenseman on his team. Brendan Dillon is the best defenseman on their team. He actually plays defense.
Yeah.
So that's my maybe a little too bold, but I'm going to stand by it. We'll come back later in the year and see how it ages.
We'll revisit that. Yeah, we'll revisit that.
I'm going to throw a patent on this real quick before we get too far. Is this prediction going to age like fine wine, and I'm right, and they're hoisting the President's Trophy? Or is it going to age like milk in the sun, and they miss the playoffs and play like they did last year? So we'll find out. Age like wine, wine or milk. The wine or milk hour.
That is a bold prediction, but I like it.
I knew I had to give one a little bit crazy, but I don't think it's that crazy. Maybe winning the President's Trophy and being the best team in the NHL might be a little bit crazy, but I don't think making the playoffs is crazy at all. So
No, nice. I like it.
yeah, so I went a little long there, but I had to kind of dive into my
No,
bold
that's good.
prediction at the
That's
same
good.
time. So
All right.
from here, should we
Oh,
pivot? Did we want to do your tidbit that you had on Crosby, or did you want to do
yeah.
Studs and Scrubs Hour?
Let me. I do have just a little something I want to talk about with Crosby, um, and then maybe a little. I don't know. My bold prediction for Ovechkin.
Ooh, yes.
But okay, so Sidney Crosby, Stu, he just signed, I believe, a 2-year extension, contract extension. Again, the 8.7 mil a year. He's obsessed with it. August
Obsessed
17th,
with it. It's just,
87. I get it. I get it.
I get it. It's your number.
Yeah. Okay. Currently, he sits at 1,596 points. So he's
Okay.
4 points shy of 1,600. Right now, that puts him 10th all time. Sidney Crosby, if he doesn't play hockey ever again in the NHL, is 10th all time in points. All time.
That's
Crazy.
that is crazy.
So I'm just ballparking. I'm going to say, if he stays healthy in
Oof.
the next few years, if he scores 100 points a season for the next couple seasons, all right, he moves up 200 more points. That puts him top 5 all time in points. Top 5. Now you look at some of these names. I was just trying to figure out like this era of the players that we have. Is this the best era that we're in? But if you look at some of these other guys, these guys were playing together. The '90s really had so many great players, so many all-time great players. I'm talking
Yep.
Gretzky, Yager, Messier, Ron Francis, Yzerman, Lemieux, Sakic, all in our era here.
Yeah.
And for Crosby, if he scores 200 more points, puts him a couple above Ronnie Francis, you're talking Gretzky, Yager, Messier, and Gordie Howe are the only players to have more points than Sidney
Wow.
Crosby. Now, I obviously growing up, I'm an Ovechkin guy, not a Crosby guy.
Right.
However, I have come to here recently really just respect him as a player.
Yeah.
And he's much of a crybaby anymore
He's
or something.
he's easier to like now.
He's
He's
easier to
easier to like
like.
now than he was when he
I
was 19.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So he also is the only player uh, other than Wayne Gretzky to average a point per game in at least 19 NHL seasons.
Wow.
So point per game average in
And so
19
he
seasons.
has always. So Crosby's done it every year he's been in the league. Then.
Essentially, yes. Yeah.
Right.
So, I
Wow.
mean, that doesn't mean, he's hurt and he's out with a concussion. He only played, whatever, 40 games. But, I mean, he still averages a
Point
point
per
per
game.
game
Yeah.
in what he's playing. So, yeah, averaging a point per game in at least 19 seasons, only him and Wayne Gretzky. I mean, you look at the scope of Crosby's career, the 3 cups. I was just talking to someone the other day about how he won the Stanley Cup in the summer, and then the following winter, he's won an Olympic gold, scoring the
Right.
game winner for Canada. I mean, just what a ride! What a 9 months. I mean, you're at the pinnacle of hockey,
Yep.
and so I mean, and you just look over his career, the 3 cups, the Olympic gold. If he gets to 5th all time, I mean, Gordie Howe has 1,850 points. Crosby's 250 away. He's 37. It's not out of the question that he even passes Gordie Howe, which is
Right.
just wild.
It is.
So I don't know where he ends up, but just to think that it's not unrealistic to think that he finishes top 5 all time or better. So
Okay.
with that being said, though, I've seen Crosby play. We even went and saw him play in DC,
Yep.
and but I've never taken Eli to see him. And so I feel like, man, I don't want Eli to miss out on, even though we're not big, huge Crosby fans, but to see someone of his caliber and to have the opportunity to see maybe a top five point scorer in the NHL of all time, I think I need to take advantage of that and
Yeah.
get Eli to a game.
You know what? You probably should, because I have a memory of seeing one of the greats that I lie about, basically, because I technically didn't see him and I just changed the story. So on the podcast, I'll be truthful because someone will find out and call me out. But when I was not quite sure how old I was, but it was one of the last years of Lemieux's career when he had come back from retirement, right? So he retired from the cancer, right, the first time, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, but then he had come back out of retirement and was playing. So I don't know if it was his final year, but it probably was, because I feel like it was Crosby's rookie year. Not quite
Okay.
sure. But we went to a Blues Penguins game in St. Louis, and Lemieux was still playing. And he was there, and I feel like he played in the warm ups and was like a game time decision because of all of his health issues. And I think it was his last year, because I feel like he was the owner player, Lemieux.
Okay.
Didn't he own the team before he retired, right? Or something?
Yeah, the second time
Something.
he
He
retired
and
for
whatever.
good.
You know how amazing Lemieux is, and he literally saved the franchise and
Yeah.
made a lot of money last year when he sold or whatever. And good on him. I can't remember, but that was a good
Yeah.
investment. But he was supposed to play that game. That's why I think he was in warm-ups. And then he didn't. Probably scratched himself and was like
Okay.
upstairs in the press box with a suit. And I say all the time, I'm like, I saw Lemieux play. I saw Lemieux play. That counts. That technically is not true.
You saw
But
him on the ice.
it's one of those things where I was fortunate enough to see Eiserman play many times and Lindstrom play many times. But it's like, well, I never saw Wayne Gretzky play. And I technically did not see Lemieux play. But I've seen Crosby play and I've seen Ovechkin play. And one time we were in St. Louis, I don't know who I was with because you weren't there, but Ovechkin scored a hat trick just 2 or 3 years ago. And they're the away team. No one cares. I had a Red Wings hat. I threw a Red Wings hat on the ice. I'm like, oh my God, Ovechkin's hat trick. And it's like those type of memories, like you're saying, that even if you're not necessarily like a Penguins guy, if you got the chance to get your son there, so then he can be like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, I saw Crosby. All this leading up to, you said, I don't know where he ends up, because there's a lot of ifs. How many years does he play? Does he sign another contract? Does he get 100 points? Because I think he can get 100 points. Or does he get 75 points? Okay. Talking about where he ends up, is he on the Mount Rushmore? So, unless I'm totally wrong, there's only 4 presidents, right? So, the Mount Rushmore, I think most people would probably say Gretzky, Lemieux, Howe, and Orr, right? That's most people's.
Yeah, I would say so.
Whose face do you take off?
You know what? This should be its own episode.
Maybe we'll circle back.
Because we could argue different things. I will say this, that the Mount Rushmore, as far as just the Pittsburgh Penguins goes, I think you could put up against any other team's 4. You're talking Lemieux, Yager, Crosby, and then Malkin.
It probably is Malkin, to be honest.
I mean, it depends on how you put them on there. Those 3.
Or Fleury, I guess, but probably Malkin.
Oh, you could put Fleury on there. Ron Francis played for the
Oh,
Penguins.
right, yeah. So if you're saying who just stopped off,
so yeah, the Penguins Mount Rushmore you could put up against any other teams and have a legit argument.
Yes.
Man, an all-time Mount Rushmore. That is a great.
That's a hard one, right? That's a hard one.
I'd have to do some research and just dig into it, because I am a big Ken Dryden fan, and proponent of how great he was, but
Yep.
he's very underrated, I feel like, and a lot of people don't think about him because he played in the 70s, and guys don't know about him now. But maybe that'll be one of my history lessons on another podcast. Just
Yes, doing Nick's history on
his
Dryden.
career.
He's a very interesting person too. I feel like he said, you know what, I'm going to be a lawyer now.
He got bored with it, dude. He was dominating so hard
And I
that it
think
was
he
just
does
too boring
politics
for him.
in Canada now.
Yep.
Maybe I'm
Yep.
wrong, but I think he's like a. We'll do a thing. Do a thing
Yep,
on
we'll do
Dryden.
a
He's
thing
very
on there.
interesting.
So,
Dude, he's
it's
also the
hard
color
to
commentator
judge.
in the Miracle hockey game.
Wow.
The
Okay.
Miracle on Ice. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. He's the other dude. He's the color.
Okay.
Which is like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, that
I
is
think.
wild. So yeah, I mean, how do you put you separate goalies and forwards, and I would put Bobby Orr in there, and just so there's a
I know
lot
you
to
want to say
break down with
Lindstrom
that.
over Orr. I know you.
Dude, there's some crazy stats with Bobby Orr, so I think we
Yeah.
should save this for another episode
We'll do
because
another
we
one.
got some digging to get into with that. But
Right, because
would
are
love
you
to
going to be the
see.
guy who says Mr. Hockey's off the face?
Right, yeah.
I don't know.
Not me. Yeah. So that is a great question, though. But yeah, I mean, Sidney Crosby definitely has a resume that not many other hockey players would. If he finishes top 5 all time, you're talking top 5 in scoring, plus the cups and all the other Hart trophies, and like I said, Olympic gold and everything. Just total package.
Junior gold.
His career, you could put up against anyone else, and he would stand with them, I think. So,
and he is so good defensively his whole career. He's known right now. Everyone knows that if you go in the faceoff circle with Crosby, you're probably losing it.
Yeah.
He's just dominant. I heard that early in his career, he wasn't good at it. You're probably the one who told me. And I think it was when they played the Red Wings back-to-back, it was like Zetterberg was so good at everything that it was like Crosby knew it was like, man, I'm not very good at faceoffs, which he probably was pretty good. But it's like he just went, he's probably got a couple screws loose. Like he just went nuts with like, I will be the best.
Right.
And it's like he does it for everything. I'm the best passer. I'm the best skater. I'm the best faceoffs. I'm the best. And it's like just obsessed with it. And he arguably is, you could make an argument outside of 99 and 66. I won't go there. You could make an argument he's the best hockey player who's not Gretzky that's ever lived, or Lemieux,
Yeah.
And you're not crazy. I might disagree with you, but it's a legitimate argument.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Anyways, I don't even like the guy, so we've talked him up enough.
Yeah, that's enough about him. I think I'll save my Ovechkin take for the next one as well, or another time. I feel like that could get.
We could go long again. Our Atlantic episode was a little long.
So I'll save that. Just one little tidbit on Crosby there, because this year, I mean, like I said, he's 4 points from 1,600, and so that puts him. He's 45 points away from Joe Sakic. He blows that this year, and then he's 9th all time, looking up at Lemieux and Yzerman, and so he won't get to them this season, but certainly by next season, he should be knocking on their door as well. So. But yeah, that's just my little blurb on Crosby. I do have a little something on Ovi, but we'll talk about that another time, just because I want to give it some the time that it deserves to be discussed. I don't want to rush through it. So
yeah, right, because we're gonna get into that a little bit. We all know the milestones that are coming up with him. We'll spend some time on it next episode. Okay, did we want to do a Studs and Scrubs hour to wrap up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so Studs and Scrubs hour, we're calling it after the podcast, Studs and Scrubs. That's where the name first came from. We were talking about more in fantasy. Who's your stud in fantasy? Who's your scrub in fantasy? And because the season hasn't started yet, our scrubs are more like, here's a guy we think will do a little worse than he did last year, just comparatively. So he's a scrub, meaning a step back. in the regular season, we might do like maybe some of your guys that are like on the border of your team, they haven't scored in a while, and we're like, cut him. He's a scrub. Go pick up this guy. That guy's a stud. And that's more what we mean. Everyone knows McDavid's a stud. That's not really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're kind of trying to get those fringe people. As the season goes on, it's a little more obvious. So bear with us here. I guess I'll jump in, huh? I've got one stud to start off with on a team I have missing the playoffs, but I think that I mentioned their first line is going to be electric, and I think he's going to have a bigger year than he has had in the past. I've got Anthony Duclair as a total stud, who everyone knows he's good, but I think his numbers are going to bump this year. He's going to play up, especially Horvat's good, but especially with Barzal. They're so fast. They're so skilled. I think the two of those guys are going to get odd man rushes a lot. They're going to have a lot of kind of quick turnover, run and gun, tap in plays, backdoor pass type stuff where the speed and the skill that Barzal can make anything happen with his skill, and Duclair can keep up with him with the speed. I think if they stay together on a line, he's going to get a bump in his numbers. So that's my first stud there.
Nice.
And then I got something with my camera here. You can keep talking. It just might cut out, but I'm good.
Okay. No worries. Yeah, so I'll go with a stud. And I had this team missing the playoffs, but this is your President's Trophy winning team, Stu. So I'm backing it up with a stud between the pipes. Markstrom. I'm going with a total stud this year. I think he's got a great team in front of him. He struggled the last few years, some numbers, but he, I think 3 years ago, maybe finished, top 3 Vezina Trophy voting. And so I just definitely think that he's going to rebound here. A lot of people probably going to overlook him being on a new team, but I think he's got the potential to put up great numbers this year, get a lot of wins. And so that is who I'm going to go with as my stud. I think you'll be able to pick him up kind of later for goalies. Obviously Vasilevsky, Shesterkin, Sorokin, Hellebuck, Jake Ottinger, those guys are all going to go earlier in your drafts. But I think if you hold off, Markstrom's going to be great value if you can pick him up in, later rounds. It seems like whenever you do a draft, as soon as one person drafts a goalie, there's like a goalie run, and then everybody's going after him. And then there's kind of a little bit of a lull as far as, it kind of drops off. So then guys, go back to draft in other positions, and then there's maybe like a tier 2. So I think a lot of people might think of Markstrom as like that second tier to start off, but I wouldn't be shocked if he ends the year in that top tier fantasy-wise. So Jacob Markstrom, stud this year.
Stud. I like that pick because that's a big basis for me saying President's Trophy is that version of Markstrom shows up.
I have the Devils missing the playoffs, but Markstrom being a stud.
I wonder if that was last year or the year before. I think it was last year. I was drinking the Kool-Aid on Markstrom a little bit where, like, I was listening to some hockey podcast like us, and everyone was like, dude, the Flames, that was a fluke. That was because of, the coach is old school and he's mean, Sutter. And, they're going to rally now. They're going to be amazing again. Just wait. They're going to be, Huberdeau's going to go off. And I was like, yes, for sure. Definitely. This is Battle of Alberta. Calgary's amazing. And I took Markstrom. And it was, I think, last year where Calgary did not do well. The wheel fell off the wagon, and I was like, but I'm with you. I think that this is the year that Markstrom locks it in. And no offense, Flames fans out there, but the Devils are way better than the Flames. Come on. So, anyway, should we do another stud or a scrub?
Let's go scrub.
Okay. My scrub, you know what? My scrub I have written down was on the same team I just picked. So I'm going to actually go for a different guy. That I'm going to go scrub is a little harsh probably, but this is a player that I wish I had in the stud category because he didn't have a super great year last year. I can't remember if there was injuries now that I'm looking at it. But his preseason rank on Yahoo is 267. So he's pretty low ranked. So maybe scrub is a little harsh because if he's that low, then if you're in a 10 team pool, he's not even going to get drafted, right? So it's like, okay, maybe scrub's harsh. But I see Capo Caco in the scrub category. It's everyone knows how talented he is and what he could be and the potential. We're getting to you gotta start scoring though. Is the like you look at I don't want to get too far off topic because we're running long, but someone like Zegras, right, where he's so talented but the numbers aren't exactly there. You look at Kaprizov, where he's so talented, guy's a maniac. He's so good, right? He's scoring 100 points or whatever. He's absolutely highlight reel machine.
Yeah.
And you look at somebody like and go, okay, we know you're talented. The puck's got to go in the net. Mm-hmm. Like, we got to take it up here. And I don't see it with Kako. I think that he's going to have another year that's a little disappointing for Rangers fans. Scrub.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, I'm going to do... I got another scrub here, and I'm going to go with the same team as your scrub, but I'm saying Trocheck. Vincent Trocheck right now is projected to be the top line center, and I just think scrub as in not going to do as well as his projection, and I think maybe just a little overrated, and I'll tell you why. So last year he had 77 points in 82 games, just a little under a point per game. Right now, I think Yahoo's got him rated at like 38, maybe. So in our league, that puts him in, we have 12 teams, right? So beginning of round four, late round 3, early round 4, somewhere in there. You figure there's probably a few goalies in there the guys are going to skip out on. So I'm saying he's probably going round 3 in our draft. Now, Larkin is rated 52nd in our Yahoo league. So you figure 4 rounds, 12, that's 48. Puts him early round 5. He might be a late round 4, but maybe 5. I don't know. We got some Wings fans in our league as well, so he might get wrapped up before there. But Larkin is a legit point per game player. He's put up the numbers. So I'm just saying that Vincent Trocheck, while he's probably not even going to get more power play points than Larkin, to be honest. I look at those guys as being kind of the same a little bit. Top line center, playing the power play, roughly your point per game player, and centers only. I'm probably passing on Trocheck in round 3 and going with a winger or a defenseman or some, a better caliber player if I know or think that I can get Larkin late 4th, early 5th round maybe, because he's going to do the same thing that Trocheck does, but I can probably get him a round or 2 later. So I'm just saying Trocheck as a scrub because I'm not drafting him in the 3rd round.
I like that reasoning too. See, this is why, admittedly, Nick's better at fantasy. When you look at it in that way, that you say, I hear the name Trocheck and Larkin, and maybe because I'm a Wings fan, I say Larkin all day. As an overall better NHL player, Larkin. I don't think there's even an argument. But then it's like, well, I mean, Trocheck's playing line 1 with the Rangers. He's not a scrub. But, it's like, okay, but like you said, if I'm taking him in round 3, let's say everyone's different how they do fantasy, but let's say you want your 2 top point scorers, and then you either probably 3rd, 4th round, you need to get your best defenseman or your best goalie somewhere soon, right? And some people, like Miles, who's not here on the call, he'll get a good goalie, and then that's it. Right. He'll take his second goalie with the bottom of the barrel, and he won't even take a 3rd goalie. He's just I want all the goals. And that's how he plays.
So lucky because those goalies never get hurt, dude. I hate it.
It's like for 12 years, he's had 2 goalies stayed healthy the whole year, and then they're always like pretty good. Like he'll just go at whatever. He'll wait. I don't know for sure, But like, I think you had him though. After the draft's over, somebody's out. Okay, I'm gonna grab this goalie. Never heard of him, Charlie Lindgren, and then he's just like an
Yeah.
absolute stud last year, and it's like,
Yeah.
what is this? And then I go like pick Vasilevsky, and it's like, nah, he's out. He's got something with his hips. It's like,
Doesn't even
I
play till
digress.
Thanksgiving.
No, but I like that because then you're going, I'm not going to waste a pick that high. If I had a third round pick and you're looking at, I can do it real quick, I think. I don't know if I have it open. The Yahoo preseason rankings, which I think is based upon our point system. If you're
Yeah, I
looking at
believe
a
so.
top 50, let's do defenseman sorting. Then the guys in the top 50, Adam Fox is at 51 overall.
Mm.
So he's the sixth defenseman in the whole NHL. So if I'm looking at round 6 or 5 before Adam Fox is still there, I don't think he's going to be there in round 6. You know what I mean? So to your point, that is great fantasy strategy where you're going, I'm not going to pick Trocheck in round 3. I got to get Yossi or Hedman or Fox, and Makar and Hughes obviously are, and Yossi are probably the 3 that are, I would guess, the defensemen that might go in round 1. You know, in our league, we got 2 that are keepers actually. But, you know, you can get a Trocheck in round 5. You don't have to get him in round 2 or 3. So, all that to say, should we do a stud now?
Yeah, I was thinking. So I do have another scrub, but just maybe one stud, one scrub, and then a flex, if you will. If you want to do another scrub or another stud, your
Okay.
choice. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah. So for right now, so do one more stud, one more scrub, and then do the flex. Your choice,
Well, I
dealer's
was
choice.
thinking flex. Yeah, I was thinking
Right now,
flex now. That way we each give one stud, one scrub, and
and
then we
one
have a
flex.
dealer's choice.
Okay, so for dealer's choice, oh man, I think I'm gonna do stud because my scrub I like, but I already picked a stud from his team, and I want to pick a different team.
Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna go stud Adam Fantilli. Columbus Blue Jackets, the rookie
Hmm.
sensation, right? So last year his total points weren't like incredible, but he didn't play a full season. I don't remember. I had him up. He's shy of a point per game, but as a rookie, he's awesome. Everyone knows he's a stud. He killed it in the NCAA. Like he's a total stud. I'm a
Yeah.
big believer of the sophomore slump. We saw it in some big, I want to say even Mo
Hmm.
Sider and Raymond, maybe even Larkin. You know, you see it with huge stars sometimes. And Fantilli, I think, normally is a type of player that could fall into that category. But surrounding the tragedies of Johnny Gaudreau's circumstances and the Blue Jackets find themselves in, I think Fantilli is going to be forced into more ice time than he would have been. And the Blue Jackets, I don't think are going to be a very good team, top to bottom, 20-guy roster, but somebody has to score. And I'm looking at line 1, according to the Daily Faceoff, is Monahan with Marchenko and Boone Jenner, and Fantilli in line 2. I don't know. I think Fantilli might be able to step up even to line 1, but they got James Van Riemsdyk in there, and they got some decent wingers that are okay. Where it's like I could see a second line sometimes being beneficial. You know, it's kind of the two-headed monster. You got the Malcolm Crosby, you got the McDavid, Draisaitl, where sometimes you have somebody so good on line 2 that the other teams don't always have a second line center that quite can handle it. And I think
Right.
that while Fantilli's not a top 5 center in the NHL, I think he's going to be a stud where he's going to get some mismatches and he's going to have some speed. And his scouting report's not 100%, where like this guy's only played 40 games in the NHL. He's going to catch some people off guard. And unfortunately, there's going to be teams, especially the Rangers and the Leafs and whoever is awesome, right? Oilers. They're going to come into Columbus half asleep, expecting to walk to a win and get out of there. And I don't think every game, especially at home, is going to be very easy. I think that they're going to be a lot like Arizona was last year, where they're losing games, but they're fighting. And you're not going to come in here and beat us by 10 goals like San Jose, no offense. But you're going to come in here and you're going to face a hard team, young guys trying their best, and Fantilli's going to be leading the way a lot. So that's my stud there, where I don't know how great he's going to do, but I'm seeing 30 goals. I'm seeing 70, 80 points from him. So whatever round that puts him in, I didn't do my research that well, but I think this is a guy that he's going to fly under the radar a bit because he's hyped because he's young and he's good, but I think he's going to do a little better than the projections.
Okay, I like it. I like it. All right. So on my dealer's choice, I'm also going to go with another stud.
Nice.
And this guy, let me back up here real quick. I think some of the numbers I was looking at, maybe with the Trocheck Larkin comparison, was maybe how they finished last year, not necessarily their projections for this year. But I still stand by it. I think Trocheck's probably going to be drafted higher than what he should be, and you would be able to find some value in another center. You don't want Trocheck to be your number one center in fantasy. So even in number two, he's probably a decent number three that you can just kind of plug and play because he's playing first line, going to be on the power play. So my point with that, before everyone kind of jumps on and says I was wrong with my projection numbers, is that I just think you can find better value where Trocheck is going in a different position, and you can find someone that would be close to Trocheck's projection or his production in a later round. So, but with that being said, my stud here, that where he is projected at in our current standings puts him in round 15. I don't think he gets drafted in round 15. And if he's still there and someone picks him, I'm going to take credit for them finding him as a stud and a diamond in the rough, because this is what I'm going for. And that is going to be Shane Ghostisbeard. I like him. I like, obviously on the Wings last year, so I kind of know a little bit what he's capable of doing.
The Ghost. But he's got a 58-foot vertical leap.
But the Ghost is right now, and I don't know if this is just preseason stuff, but right now he's quarterbacking power play 1 in Carolina. Right. And I think they're going to put up some numbers. You got Aho, Jarvis, Nietzsche's. The Carolina has players that can score. And so I just think, if for no other reason than just the fact that he is quarterbacking the power play of a team that is going to be maybe a top 10 power play in the league, I think he's going to get some points there. And his current Yahoo projection is like in the 180s somewhere. And so do I think he lasts that long? No. If he does, that puts him at around 15. And to get a defenseman that plays top power play minutes that late, I think is a great value, a huge diamond in the rough, if you will. And if that's the case, I think he could potentially put up stud numbers.
That's a great one, because he's a total stud, go Wings, and diamond in the rough. And then real quick before I forget, because I took a peek while you were breaking down why Ghost is such a good steal. This is just a quick example, some names that jumped at me that are Yahoo's preseason ranking. They are ranked lower than Vincent Toracek. Okay? Mm-hmm. So to your point, if Toracek's available in round 2, round 3, round 4, he was ranked, now I lost Toracek, but I think he's ranked 38th overall in our preseason ranking, not including the goalies. So there's at least 3 or 4 goalies that are going to be higher. Your Shesterkins, especially they got to play a lot, right? So
Yeah.
Shesterkin, Saros, there's going to be a few, if Demko's healthy, Ottinger, that are going to play every game and they're going to be awesome. Okay, so sure, push him down a little bit, but whatever. He's 40, top 40 in the NHL. Here's some names that are lower than Torchek according to Yahoo. You could get a whole 2 rounds after. Nugent Hopkins, Marchessault, Rope Hintz, Tage Thompson, Steven Stamkos, Matthew Barzal, Tim Stützle, Dylan Larkin, Brock Besser, Wyatt Johnson, Mitch Marner, that are all worse than Vincent Torchek. No offense, I feel like we're picking on him. I think I might have called him a scrub in our last episode. So we're getting after him.
Yeah.
But he's a good example of what, before the season starts, when we say scrub, don't take someone like Torchek in round 1, 2, 3. They're overvalued this season.
Yeah.
And we're trying to stay to our division. That's the problem.
The production's going to be there with him. The point that we're trying to make is just that where he's valued at is a little high.
Yeah, round 5, round 6, that's a great pickup. You pick him up in 2 or 3, I think you're going to be biting yourself a little, or you're going to be kicking yourself a little bit, because I think round 2 or 3, in round 2, you've got Crosby, Ovechkin, whatever, the other Robertson, Marchand, Barkov. You got the big dogs, and of course, it's not showing our keepers. Our league, we do keepers for 1 season, so you're still talking Kucherov and Pasta and Panarin, and Rantanen. The big dogs are still up there. So Torchek, that's around 5er. Good call, Nick. Right. That's the type of fantasy insight Nick brings that we want to do on this podcast, and then sometimes I tend to derail us a little bit.
It's all good. So that's all I got for the studs and scrubs. I mean, I could keep going, but I feel like
we should wrap up.
One stud, and then a flex is kind of a good.
Flex
it's
is
a nice
pretty
balance.
Good. We got. I could cheat and throw names with no breakdown. Tarasov, goalie in Columbus, could be an outlier. He's a Russian goalie. If he turns it on, he's gonna get peppered. No offense, Columbus. Yeah. And I got a scrub as Nelson. I'm gonna cheat and throw out there because I'm looking at his numbers again. The guy had 30 and 30. I don't know if Brock Nelson's going to throw up 35 goals this year.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Good stuff.
He's playing on line 1. He might, but
potentially.
I mean, Daily Faceoff has him on line 3. So you got a guy on the 3rd line who's going to get 35 goals? I don't think. Behind Horvat, Barzal, Anders Lee.
Right.
Not on the power play. I think I'm reading Daily Faceoff. So that's, I cheated. I threw out some names when we said we're going to hang up, but I keep looking at Brock Nelson going,
no, you're good.
I think he's not going to play again.
Yeah. I also still want to do our NHL segment.
Yes. You got history for me today?
Nick's history lesson. Yes. So I know last time we did the William Jennings Trophy, and we had just briefly mentioned about the Lady Byng Trophy, and some stuff with Johnny Hockey. So I wanted to revisit that just real quick. The Lady Byng Trophy, with the tragedy of Johnny Hockey, there's been kind of a movement, if you will, to rename that trophy after Johnny Hockey in his honor. He did win it before. It was the only individual award he won, but that trophy, the Lady Byng Trophy, is awarded to the player exhibiting the best sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct combined with high standard of playing ability. Johnny Hockey, I think, definitely represents that. It'd be a great tribute to him. And that's kind of what got me started on the history of some of these trophies, was because, people were like, well, what about the person that the trophy is currently named after? We're just renaming trophies, or people just want to rename the trophies. But what about, great, we renamed Johnny Hockey Trophy, or, the Lady Byng to the Johnny Gaudreau, or the Gaudreau Award, or Gaudreau Trophy, or whatever you want to call it. And then 50 years from now, something else happens, and then they want to rename it. and it's like, whoa, what,
Right.
you guys don't know the story of Johnny Hockey, and
Right.
so I think some of that gets lost. So, Lady Byng Trophy, sportsmanship, gentlemanly conduct, high standard of playing. It's voted on by the Professional Hockey Writers Association. Um, they vote for the player or players, and it's determined who the winner is from them. Just a little bit of a backstory. It was donated in 1924, and the 1924-25 season by Lady Byng of Vimy, Vimy, not sure how you say that. She was then the Vice Regal Consort of Canada. Not sure what position that is or what you do exactly with it.
Yeah, I
Sounds
don't
pretty
know.
important. But she was an avid hockey fan and wanted to donate this award to the NHL for them to give out to that player. That was the intention, that is exhibits the best sportsmanship, high quality of play, and the person that has the most wins, the most times winning this trophy, I would tell you to guess, but you'll never guess. Someone
I'll
back in
never
the
guess the
day.
most lady beings of all time.
Correct, because it was, I mean, like right after she awarded this trophy to the NHL or donated it.
And
So
what was the year again?
1924, 1925.
All right, I won't know that far back. Fine.
Most wins was a guy by Frank Boucher. I'm sure it was on the tip of your tongue.
And it
Frankie,
was
are
right
you
there.
agree with it? Frank. Yeah.
I
Who
thought
won
it
it
might be
7 times?
Datsu, to be
Oh,
honest.
man, he did go on a little tear there, but this Frank Boucher won it 7 times in 8 years. So she then gave him the original trophy.
What was she dating him?
Well, who knows?
The
We'll
gentleman of the
never
league.
know.
7 years in a row.
So after he was given the original trophy to keep, she then donated a second trophy in the 35-36 season. When she died in 1949, the NHL renamed the Lady Byng Trophy to the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy
Oh,
in her honor. The
I guess I didn't
original,
even realize that it was Lady Byng Memorial Trophy was its full name.
I did not either, yeah. And then turns out the original was destroyed in a house fire of this Boucher fella in 1962.
Maybe there was
Not
a scandal
sure.
here. I was
Yeah,
joking, but
there might be something to that. I
he
didn't
gets
dig
the
that
original
deep into
trophy,
it.
and
Yeah,
then what?
I
11
did
years
not.
after she passes away, his wife finds out,
Yeah,
and
so I didn't dig into that little bit of history of the trophy, but a lot of people are saying, so with the this year will be the 24-25 season, right? So that'll be 100 years of this trophy. So they're saying
oh,
that it might be a good time. Hey, play it out this year. It's the Lady Byng, and then we retire it. It was around for 100 years.
right.
Now let's go with the Johnny Hockey Award or the Johnny Gaudreau Award. Um, and so that I'm not completely against.
Yeah.
Um, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know that hockey has renamed any awards lately. It seems like the one most recent they created was the Messier Award, I believe, for the
Yeah.
leadership thing. But so we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's the history of the Lady Byng. And as I'm kind of finding out, and we'll find out together. A lot of these trophies were just kind of donated or thought, it was like, even the William Jennings was, the governor of the Rangers or whatever. And it was like, well, what does that guy do? But he's like, well, let's just hand out this award. Now, his, I will agree, did kind of fix a problem. We talked about that last time as far as best goalie or, the Vezina trophy for best goalie going to the goalie on the team that allowed the fewest goals. Not the best indicator for who the best goalie is. So that one I get and I understand a little more. He was kind of fixing a problem, if you will, of what that
Right.
the award Vezina trophy, who it was going to. So, but this one just donated, and yeah, still going today. But who knows what we'll see after this year if it gets retired and we get another
Yeah.
award.
It is interesting now that you say that. Some are just donated. The
Yeah,
Stanley Cup comes to mind.
yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean, it's like, oh yeah, that was just
So,
donated to the league
right.
as the award for the winner.
Yeah.
So um, it is interesting though. Some of these awards, like you're saying, that a lot of times the history gets lost a little bit, and if it's not a player, like you might know who Vesna is
Sure.
just because it's Vesna, but like, I mean, he played 100 years ago, right? I mean, it's like
Yeah.
I don't think you could ask there's kids that are born, after 2000 that are like grown up adults with college degrees, right? That are out there in the
Hmm.
real world. So the kids that are playing now that were, born in 2015,
Yeah.
who's Lady Being? I didn't even know that Lady was a title, that it was Lady Being.
I didn't either
I
until
almost thought it was like someone's name was
it just
Lady.
kind of clicked. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I guess I never researched it. I never even knew it was called the memorial. It was just sort of like, oh, what's that trophy? Oh, it's given to a guy
Right.
who like doesn't take penalties, but he's also really good. It
Yeah.
was like that's what I thought, right?
Yep.
And it's interesting to learn the history. So I like NHL history with Nick Hour.
Yeah. Quick little note on Datsuk. He's got 4 Lady Bings.
Four.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I might have known that. I don't remember if I knew a number, but I knew we got a few there.
yeah.
Probably the most of a Red Wing, I bet. We should know that.
Probably. Probably. Yeah.
I feel like maybe Draper won a couple. Yes,
So I
can't
think
remember.
what we're getting confused with is the Selkie, best
Well, the
defensive forward.
Selkie, right? Because people are joking we should rename it after Bergeron, and I get where
Right.
they're coming from because Bergeron's like the guy.
Yeah.
But like people used to joke that
Datsuk also
that's who
has
could have won it
3 of
every single year of
those.
his career.
Yeah.
And you could argue that Bergeron's so good, but like you could argue that Kopitar, Crosby could have won it 19 years in a row.
Yeah.
And it's like he's not going to win the Art Ross and the Selkie. We're going to give the
Yeah.
Selkie to Bergeron because he's so good at defense and he got 85 points.
Yeah.
Crosby got 120 points. We're not giving him the Selkie.
Right. Yeah.
But interesting. Yeah. So,
So yeah,
but
Nick's
again,
history
I don't know
lesson
who Selkie is
NHL.
off the top of my head. So
We'll get into that another
we'll
another
do we'll
time.
do them
Yeah.
all. I love it.
So
All right, I don't have anything else to add.
that's all I
Thank
got for
God,
this
our new
time.
listeners are saying we're turning this one off. This is
Yeah.
a two-parter.
And listen, I'm thinking that they probably are a little long just because we're going over these divisions.
Yeah,
Um, we don't know what the format necessarily is going to look like moving forward. We're hoping, we're busting some of these episodes out and then maybe once a week. But there might not be a lot of NHL news for a week, so maybe one's going to be, 35 minutes. Maybe they'll still be an hour. Maybe there'll be some big news and there will be an hour and a half one, but these first couple are just us kind of gearing up for the season and doing big overviews for what's happening NHL wise, but also fantasy wise. So I'm
yeah,
sure we're still going to be probably in the even our shorter ones. I would venture to guess are still probably going to be 30 to 45 minutes somewhere in there.
yeah,
And we're still figuring this stuff out. We're still trying to, learn how to tighten some stuff up and stay on track and everything. But,
yeah. How
just
to
bear
keep
with us.
our
We're
notes? Bear
new to
with
this.
us,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So,
that's part of it. Is like you said, they're going to get a lot shorter when it's the season, and we're
yeah,
just saying, hey, here's what happened this week. We're just going to talk on big news. Like we didn't
yeah,
even mention it's not in the division of the Metro, but like for fantasy, it'll affect it. We'll talk in the Pacific Division, right? Drew Doughty breaks his ankle today,
oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
Wasn't it today or last night maybe? And it's
Hmm.
like, I think the news that it was his ankle, it was fractured and he's out for a long time, came out today.
Right.
The
Yeah,
game was yesterday. But, stuff like that, that's what we're going to do. Hit on, oh my goodness, how does this affect fantasy basically? How does it affect the Kings?
yeah,
You know, stuff like that, and then move on. And we won't really ever go through like the 32 teams, like when we're doing our preseason predictions, who
right.
makes the playoffs, who's in, you know. So these are longer. So exactly like Nick said, we'll have our format down a little better, and we'll kind of do a big news, fantasy stuff, studs and scrubs, NHL history with Nick, and get out of there. So even when Miles is on, we got a third guy. I think we're looking in the 45 window
to an hour. Yeah.
Just depending on what happens.
Figure 45 minutes, give or take 5 or 10 either way, just depending.
Exactly. So. And then you never know. Maybe we'll change it up. Maybe come playoffs, we'll do more because there's so many games on.
Yeah.
Play it by ear, especially when, for sure, guaranteed our Wings are in this year. Then we're going to be dialed into Red Wings playoff hockey. But
yeah.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
That's all I've got. Everyone, thanks for giving us a chance. It's Studs and Scrubs.
Thank you, guys.
Pretty much on everything. Some things might be Studs and Scrubs Podcast. We're going to have our YouTube will be Studs and Scrubs Podcast. Our Spotify name, I think, is just going to be Studs and Scrubs. But we'll put links and stuff when we get better at this and have them drop. Yeah. We're going to attempt to have our 4-division breakdown all drop like first day of the NHL or the Thursday before, whatever. Like, we're going to try to have them come out so it's a little bit of a launch for us. And just, if you're bored at work or you need some more hockey to fill you up, give us a shot. Absolutely. Join us, like, subscribe, share, all those things. Duet. Yeah. I don't know if we have a TikTok up and running yet, but we'll get there. And
are you Stu Coffee on Instagram, on your socials?
I'm Stu Coffee on my Instagram. And that, if people go there, I have an Etsy shop where I make hockey shirts. So it might look a little misleading that it's like, that's not that bald guy.
Yeah.
What is this? So it's like, my wife designs them mostly. I'm like, oh, it'd be a cool shirt. And then I'm useless. So she can make them on like the Canva or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So Stu Coffee.
So check out Stu Coffee. I'm Zamboni Driver 17 Instagram. Check it out.
And then we have Studs and Scrubs podcast. No, just Studs and Scrubs on Instagram.
Or Studs and Scrubs Instagram, yeah. Check out all those.
Our logo, you'll see on the Instagram. Give us a follow. Support the show. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. All right.
Keep your stick on the ice.
Make them make the first move, Conway.
Ice cold. I love it. Thanks for listening.